picture in my mind. You wanna leave it all behind, in a world that's turning all the time. Nothing could stop me longing for your eyes. I won't let it die. I can feel you when you're not around.
Welcome back to week 2 of the Southeastern Esports League Season 4 Rocket League Edition. Of course, I have to say that now, specify it, because I got a Valorant caster in the booth with me this week. Of course, I'm Mr. Bepic, but this week I am joined by Mr. Infernosis. Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It feels bad to lie to everybody, to lie to all the viewers out there. I said just last week on Thursday, I'll see you all next week on Thursday.
Oh.
And now I've been made into a big fat liar. I was already one of those things, but now I've got to be the rest of it. It's really just unfortunate to see that. So thanks, Fred. Big shout out to the guy who runs and owns this thing. But unfortunately for you, I'm going to call you out. So if you have to sub in, you have to sub in. I'm excited for this one, though. It's been a while since I've casted Rocket League. It's been a while since I casted with you, Bepic. I think the last time you and I cast together was actually at a LAN with Rocket League together. Or was that with Foof? No, that was Foof. Last time you and I cast together was for Valorant, interestingly enough. So you're kind of like a pseudo Valorant caster, too.
Hey, just like you're a pseudo Rocket League caster, so we got that going together.
Don't tell Fred that. He's going to keep trying to poach me in here. He's going to keep trying. It's going to get on my nerves.
Well, it's working because you're here and you get to watch Cumberland and Alabama taking each other on in the first best of 5 of the day. Scott, I know you're not completely familiar with these two teams, so I'll give you the rundown as well as all the viewers watching right now. Both these squads 2-0. We're watching Pool 3 of the 4 pools we got going on in SEL Rocket League. And again, both 2-0. Alabama, though, got taken to Game 5 by East Carolina last week. And they beat Georgia State 3-1, which was a great result for Alabama. But that Game 5 win against East Carolina, a little worrying, but now a big test against Cumberland, who's one of the, I would say, top 5 teams in this league, Scott. Alabama has a big test coming up. But Cumberland, I would say as well, they got a big test in Alabama playing right now because they're new to the SEL. Great team, but they got to prove it on the SEL stage. So this is a fun series for you to get introduced to the Rocket League side this season with.
Yeah, it sounds like Alabama had a little bit of a tough time still squeaking out a victory last week. Unfortunately, they weren't able to do that over the weekend, but it doesn't mean they're not able to make up for some of that glory that may have been lost here today. And if they have a tough battle to close things off last week, I can only assume that means they're well-versed in difficult situations. And from what you're saying, it sounds like Cumberland, who rode very pretty in through their first week, may not have as much of a testament or have been tested as much, so to say, here in the SEL. So this may be their first real battle coming into this one. I mean, if you're going to talk about excitement, you got to talk about an interstate battle in the first place. I'm from Alabama. I know you are too. So the idea is to root for Alabama, but I'm also from Auburn. So the idea is just not really there. I can't bring my mind to it. But Cumberland, they're just a team that's unknown to me for anything except for R6 and Valorant. So I really want them to show me a game here, Bepic, that screams to me that they are the team to watch, to root for as I step away. Hopefully next week, step away and I'm able to actually just be a viewer once again here for Rocket League.
I mean, they're one of those schools that's starting to get really good at a whole bunch of different esports. Like you mentioned, Valorant and R6, and now Rocket League as well. They still got to prove it to you, of course, but they've got some good players on the roster. Magic, Aurora, and Skyline are the 3 that round out the roster. I know you're familiar with Aurora with your background at UAH because he played in the SEL for UAH Blue for several different seasons. So he's coming back for a different team and is still competing at the top.
It was really nice to see a bunch of the players, at that main stage land and to meet a bunch of individuals, put, a face to a name. Now I can't remember the faces, but the names I'll never forget, Bepic. And Aurora is one of those names that I'm used to screaming into the high heavens before we'd even brought you in, Bepic, into the SEL. We used to just run one-off tourneys for Gaming Oasis, right, for Rocket League. We do little things like that. I was alongside Mick at the time, who just really stood there in the booth and tried to look pretty. I say tried because sometimes it takes a little bit of effort for him. But he had no idea about Rocket League, and truly to say, I didn't either at the time, but Aurora was one of those names that still scream to us, this dude knows what they're doing, right? Aurora can absolutely play with the best of them, and we were very impressed with the performances brought forward. Seeing them transition to a new university, honestly, I'm hoping that's purely they're poached for talent. I'm hoping that's what it is. I always root for the player, not necessarily the school, because the individuals make that roster. So I'm hoping this is the right move for Aurora.
I think it is. I mean, this is a pretty stacked team, and he was kind of the player that could go off and take over a lobby when he used to play at UAH, and now he's got some teammates around him that could probably do that as well. And so on the Alabama side, they've got a lot of things to look out for on the Cumberland end. They got Aurora, and the Skyline and Magic as well can take over lobbies and have their way with things. But they got a guy that I'm very excited to watch kind of again. I've watched Alabama play with this roster a couple of times now on my personal stream, but they got a guy from Auburn, Scott. I know you and I are both Auburn guys, and they're playing with Gray, who was part of Auburn Rocket League for a long time. And so now he's on that roster alongside Chan and the freshman Trizen. And so this is a new look Alabama Crimson roster. And so as they take the field for their first match in the SEL broadcast stage, I can't wait to see what they're able to do against Cumberland here.
And it's already getting off to a great start. We're going to get things off first and foremost. We'll meet the ball in the middle. It's a kick that goes, I would say, majority over to the Alabama side off the initial, but now it's going to be a shot sent off towards goal. Bama looking to kind of clear that one away for now. It is a nice demo to slow things up. And as it's set into the center, Kachan saved that. It's cleared away just barely. As the shot misses just slightly awry there, Bebe.
Still, Cumberland with all kinds of pressure and control right now. Trizen's going to clear the zone. He's got no boost for any kind of follow-up, but he'll do his best to shut down that clearance. And even though Alabama was really backed up right there, low on boost, they find an escape route. Aurora headed right back, play into the Alabama back wall. Chan get a read for that back wall, but kind of frenetic pace coming out of the gate here in game one. I'm here for it. Counter-attack heavy Rocket League for Alabama, and Cumberland is trying to exercise their might in the offensive end.
All right, it's all just an uphill battle of back and forth. There goes Gray Cammy, able to take down Magic. Another demo we've seen. It's pretty much been Alabama trying to go for that soul. I mean, they were facing a lot of pressure right off the rip. They were just trying to clear it away from their side off the initial stages that we saw come out from Cumberland. A beautiful setup that comes forward. The assistance coming from Magic off that wall. You see the boop here. They tried to play it perfectly, and when you try, you have to succeed sometimes because Skyline was waiting to plop that one into the back of the net, and it is a 1-0 star for them.
Yeah, I don't envy Triton's position right there. He was kind of left on an island to buy time for Gray to rotate back post and wasn't able to buy enough time right there. Great play, though.
Oh, my goodness.
Another one. Aurora piecing together another great play for Cumberland. An air dribble from the midfield line beats everyone on the Bama side.
Aurora showing us, yeah, it's the individuals sometimes that can really save graces for a roster. We've seen how good Cumberland can be so far just in game one, it seems. We're on even 2 minutes completely into it, and Aurora has said, yeah, you remember my name, you're going to keep remembering. You'll have to remember the new roster I've stepped into. Beautiful play from them, a 2-0 start, and Bama are on the back burner, needing to make up time and make up goals quick, and that was their first great chance to do so. Chan with a sender to the back of the net, but Skyline perfectly timed there to stop it, and Bama has to still find an answer.
That was Bama's second shot of the game. This is their third, slowly starting to develop themselves offensively. They were behind on the possession game for a long while, but finally getting things going in the right direction. That demo might alleviate things, but Chan, cheeky little double right there, is going to elicit a save from Magic, and Cumberland going to find a clear, but Emma looking really good offensively for the first time in this series.
Cumberland are starting to get a little cheeky of their own. I mentioned earlier, it seems to be Bama's majorly going for these demos. They've joined in when they had 3 players downfield, down pitch, working the ball towards the Bama nets. But Bama will clap right back, doing the exact same thing if it wasn't for Magic, working up high for the aerial to send it downfield to Skyline. Booped away just in time. Skyline doesn't get enough power towards the net, and a little bit too far for Aurora. That leaves the net wide open, and Trizen will seemingly solo it sky high the entire way down pitch to send that one to the back of the net. What a great way to dunk that one downward.
There, 2 syllables right there as to why you should be excited to watch this new look Alabama team. Trizen. What a play to get Bama on the board in this series, and Cumberland's going to erase all the work that Trizen just did, of course. But hey, good start for Bama on the scoring side, but Cumberland, they just refused to go away, Scott. Skyline, what a beat right there.
Aurora just moving away. Didn't want to get the touch on it. So I won't steal your girl. I'm the new blood here. I'm not trying to make my name too known too quickly. Trizen, in fact, in that goal that just came out for Cumberland, had been demoed. They weren't even allowed to be involved. It was a bit of revenge, so to say, for the goal. Cumberland came out with a vengeance. They send another ball down towards the back of the net. It's Magic with another one. Trizen gets the save, something they were not allowed to do for the goal that came out just prior for Cumberland. But with the ball being stuck in the middle of the pitch, it's down to these teams to start sending it over towards the net. It's a serious play from here from Aurora to try and meet up against Kami, but Unfortunately, it doesn't go in favor of Cumberland. It looks like Bama will start to move this down the corner side of the pitch.
Roar's going to slow it up, though. And on zero boost, still trying to act an annoyance to Alabama's midfield offense. Still doing it. Back pass to Skyline successful, and that puts him now in a 1v1 versus Chan, the captain of this Alabama roster, the lone remaining player from Bama's A-team last season. And Chan wins that defensive bout and will find the Crimson Tide into their offensive side. 90 seconds left. They still need those 2 goals to make up the deficit that Cumberland has put them in, but you know, they've been slowly trending in the right direction, getting more and more offense on the board, but Cumberland, outside of that one misstep where they allowed the tries in open net, they have not put a foot long in defense.
You can see a little bit of, I would say, worry coming out here from Cumberland, though. Too many players going up to meet the ball for the aerial, not enough being in the back of the net. Skyline has been a stalwart figure for them, but it still feels like Alabama are getting a lot of chances to send a ball towards the back of the net. The issue comes on their defense because Cumberland are quick to move down the pitch and put pressure towards that Alabama goal. They sent one in, blocked and saved once again. Alabama, those saves can't necessarily win you games. You got to get back down the field and start applying pressure on your own offense too.
And Gray both going for that ball and not finding a clear. It's going to waste even more precious time on this clock. Skyline playing it backwards. Cumberland, when they were forced back, did look a little awkward. And Alabama looked like they were close to getting a second on the board, but right now it is just comfortably running out the clock for Cumberland. Though back to the uncomfortable situation on their own goal line. Had to make a quick save, but in the final 10 seconds, let's see a goal right here. This is Cumberland's game to win, and their advantage found first in this best of 5. Ball stay up on 0 seconds, but Cumberland's going to be taking game 1.
It's an unfortunate scoreline for Alabama. They're trying to make it a little bit better for themselves. It'll drop down, though. It's not too big of a concern. I'll point out, at least from my opinion there, Bepic, as somebody who's a little bit less experienced in Rocket League, I think the biggest difference there is both sides had a very solid defense. Cumberland obviously had let less balls into the back of their nets, but their offense was very different in scales to that Alabama side. They played a little bit better on corner plays for the 1-2 tap we saw that came in for the assist that we highlighted as their second goal. Their third goal was a great individual showcase to say, hey, we can demo out, get rid of the big player that we're really worried about of Trizin, who had just scored previously on that solo goal for Alabama, their only goal for Alabama. And they just worked in stages as a roster. Alabama hasn't shown us that yet on the attack, right? We haven't seen those 1-2 plays that have netted them a goal in the back of the net. We've seen Trizin go big, go brazy, and go home, but that's been it. We need to see the rest of the roster work together like we saw come out from Cumberland. It was a little bit too one-dimensional maybe, but Cumberland was making mistakes. There should have been room for Alabama to step into that net.
Yeah, from Bama, it really was just a lot of slam the ball off of Cumberland's back wall and see if they make a mistake that gives you a free shot. And that worked once, but unless you're really holding Cumberland's offense to very little productivity in their offensive end, and that's not quite going to work out for you. I mean, you look at the Skyline stat line, 2 goals on 7 shots. There were 9 total shots for Cumberland, and Skyline had 7 of them. I mean, that's productivity from Skyline alone that can down Alabama's defense. I mean, it did. If you take away that third goal, you just added the scoreboard everything that Skyline scored. It's still a Cumberland victory. And so Alabama's got to find a way to limit that kind of production from Cumberland. Well, you're right. Playmaking is a big thing they've got to figure out on their offensive side.
Cumberland back in control for now, though. They'll start off this next game in a very solid state. Bama going back to their role just as due, saying, hey, demos are over us. Maybe that'll help us step up into the net as quick as we can. Magic, though, playing with the ball in the air will buy time, waiting for that player to come back into the fight. And they'll start to move seriously down towards the pitch with Aurora doing it seemingly all by their lonesome. Working down that sideline, getting full boost and just essentially bullying not just 2, but 3 players at the same time. Barreling one back over towards their full charge, sending it down the sideline. One player, Chan, gets a little too distracted with the demo, and the defense just wasn't there in time for Bama.
Bama just put way too much faith in that Trizin 50-50, taking in the Cumberland end. He went high, and the ball on the Cumberland player went low, and that kind of gave up everything. Because Bama's playing aggressively right now. They are playing demo-heavy play style. They've only got 2 in this game, but in the first 45 seconds, that's a lot. As they had 4 in the previous game. So it's kind of clear what their strategy is. Hit the ball hard and hit the Cumberland players harder. But so far, Cumberland's doing a good job of recovering. And right there, Magic buying time for Skyline to recover, get back in defense here, evade that demo, but the 50-50, not won by Cumberland this time. Chan dominates it and ties us up.
Skyline was there, stopped the initial play for the demo, but just jumps a little too high. Chan saying, hey, they're going to predict I go high with this ball. If I keep it down low, it's going to throw that player off. It's going to maybe pop in for a second hit on top and put that in the back of the net, and it works out perfectly. And we're finally seeing a game now where Bama has tied things up. No longer the 2-1 scoreline that quickly became 3-1 like we had before. It is a serious game still on our hands here for match 2. And it looks like Cumberland are coming in with a vengeance. All 3 players down pitch, no one in the defensive position. We've seen a very aggressive play style from them, and it has found a lot of success. Skyline has retreated back towards the middle of the pitch. We'll wait up for Magic, trying to clear this one down the line, but it just sets up Kami for a long shot play, just slightly too far off to the side of the net.
4 demos already for Bama.
Good night.
Cumberland's answered with 2 more of their own, but Bama blowing up all those gray cars, yet Cumberland not relenting, still putting together good-looking counterattacks. And they've had much less possession in the second game than they did in the previous, but they still looked as threatening in the offensive side as they did in game 1. Right here, a big opportunity that Skyline puts off the crossbar, and the rebound there from Aurora. Too far off to the side. Close shave for Alabama. Cumberland not quite accurate enough, but they smell blood in the water. They are peppering the Crimson Tide's net at the moment. Alabama going to escape, but that was very close to being Cumberland's second, which they find now.
Magic with a singer. Left side midfield. Plays off the wall. Magic waits for it perfectly, and it goes bar down ski in to send Cumberland up 2-1 here so far in this match. And Bama, it does feel like Bebek, they're working together as a team a little bit better, but I'm still seeing glimpses of just hit the ball hard. If you hit the opposition hard as well, hey, we'll call it a part of the strategy, but it seems too random, and the team isn't finding the same level of success between players that we're seeing from Cumberland.
Now, cohesion is absolutely an issue for Alabama here, and it is the beginning of the season with this new team trying to make up for their season 3 performance in the SEL. I mean, they went 1-6 in group play, and we're a series away from making land in that last chance qualifier, but that was not up to their standards. And this, I'm sure, kind of the same, not up to Alabama's standards. They feel like they should be winning this series against Cumberland because this is one of the top teams in Pool 3 in this season of the SEL. And so if they can beat Cumberland here, it makes a statement to the rest of the teams in this pool that Alabama is a serious contender once again. On the flip side, Cumberland, kind of the same deal. If they can beat Alabama here, it sends a signal to the rest of the teams at that level that Cumberland can make plays, they can make results happen in their favor. There's Magic again, the 1-2 passing play to score the 3rd.
Aurora set that up down the sideline initially. Magic plays it deep ball to Trizen to set that one up for the team. Sorry, not for Trizen, for Skyline to set that one up. That is Cumberland showing once again their cohesion between the team, their interplay in this roster is pristine. And Bama, honestly, looking at this, even with a loss, should they face this today, there was still plenty of time to come back and win this one out. Their roster purely capable of doing so here at Bepic. They can look at this, they can vibe for this and say, this is what we should be capable of as a roster, as a team. We got to do better together. And I think if they just change that play style away from the very boost-heavy style of ramming the ball and players in the opposition, they would absolutely be able to put up a fight against Cumberland. They may need to change that mindset between match 2 and 3.
Right there, good cohesion. Aurora and Skyline working in tandem. Put the ball into the Alabama corner while Magic guards the midfield line. Doesn't quite work out. Too strong a touch for Magic. Coughs up possession to Bama here, but Trizen, hey, leaving the ball for Chan. Trying to redirect it back center. Chan and Gray going for that ball. Another issue with the Alabama rotations. A lot of double commits. That could have been an opening for Cumberland, but instead they elect to play it slowly, play the demo game, and score a 4th. It's a hat trick for Magic in game 2.
You are looking at Magic baiting out the majority of the team, and Skyline saying there will be no defense, and Magic saying what Skyline can't clear, I'll clear. Every defensive player denied. It was a 1-on-1 essentially for Magic, and the rest of the team said, hey, we'll pick our ones and we'll win our ones. Who says you can't play it like Valor, right? Just win your ones. It seems like Cumberland are a very multifaceted team when it comes to that success.
It would have been long before Scott worked a Valorant reference.
I mean, come on, man. It's your demo it so often. Good call by Bama.
Gray will come in and bail Scott out, essentially, for getting called out for the Valorant reference. But that's all right. I'll take a goal. Alabama getting themselves a little bit of footing back in this series. Just got to feel good to score after that run that Cumberland went on. Cut the lead down to 2. Maybe have a go at this comeback or get the momentum going for Game 3.
I think momentum is a key part here for Rocket League in the first place, and Bama, it seems like they had some at the very beginning. This game has fallen apart. This match has fallen apart in the final 2 minutes. The beginning, they come back, they tie things 1-1. Past that, it seems like they were at their wits' end for an answer. And I think one of the big things from Cumberland was the success they had with their passing play. Any team looks at that, Bepic, they look at that success, they look at the coordination, and they start to feel a little bit disjointed. They start to see a little jumbled in the head, right? How are we going to beat a team that knows where to pass it, where to place it, and where to put it in? And Bama, I don't know how you're going to find an answer for it, but you're going to have to look here because this is a best of 5, and they're entering into the third down 2-0.
And it wasn't just the passing game either. It was a multifaceted attack from Cumberland.
Yeah.
That entire game, their transitions were great. The passing was great. We talked so much about the Alabama demo game. I think let me count up how many they finished with there. They had 5 ending the game. Cumberland finished the game with 6 demos. Ooh. They out-demoed the team we thought was demoing the most. And it was effective. I mean, you look at that 4th goal, it was set up. Magic had such an easy shot because of the demos, and I think it was Aurora found on the goal line. And so Alabama just has so much to think about because Cumberland is playing so effectively in offense right now that just makes playing defense so much more difficult when you have to have eyes on all sides of your head.
I think the most impressive part of what we saw from Cumberland was the goal where we saw the one-on-one, the juke slightly up, the dribble highward, and the 2 players essentially removing all defensive positions that came out for Bama. To have that much trust in your teammate to win that one-on-one when they are quite literally the last line of defense and they have to full turn around and it would be an easy one-on-one shot for that first defending player that would not or would be beat, that requires a lot of trust, Bepic. And we see Cumberland trusting in their players, and I don't see Bama doing the same thing. A lot of balls going up for a 2-on-1 split for an aerial when they're just leaving things open. Cumberland's had a couple of those mistakes, but it has been majority Alabama overcommitting, not communicating, and it's just going to become an even more present problem, the even better teams that they face, because Cumberland is exceptionally good, but it doesn't mean they're topped off.
Alabama's certainly got the mechanical ability to get themselves out of this rut. It's just a matter of, does Cumberland allow them any kind of space to get that going? Right now, the answer is certainly no, but Alabama, a little bit of possession to start off game number 3. They could use an opening goal here. Ooh. Skyline not going to allow that just yet. Trizin and Gray linking up for more possession. Right back to Gray. Hard shot blocked by Magic, and that's more like it. Team cohesion from Bama in offense.
That was a gorgeous setup. Perfect play off the corner. That did not screen to me at all, Bepic. Alabama's strategy we saw in match 1 of just hitting the ball as hard as possible. If an enemy gets in the way, they're demoed. It's not a big deal. That felt calm and calculated. That felt like a true setup, something that was practiced and regimented for that Bama side, and it needed to come a little bit sooner, but it doesn't mean the game is over just yet. You can still make the big comeback, the full comeback sweep to take this one 3-2, but it all has to start here with you putting a ball in the back of the net, and Cumberland have been very good about denying that. They've been very quick so far, just in this match alone, in this game, whatever you call it in Rocket League. I've already forgotten, my notes are on a different screen. They have already been playing very passive in the defense and willing to let Bama make the mistakes first.
Tries a big opportunity here in a 1v1 spot, but kind of flubs the flick and allows Magic another easy save. He's racking them up in game 3, keeping the potential reverse sweep out of Alabama's hands. Like I said, that opening goal is a great first step in that reverse sweep journey, but right now Cumberland fighting tooth and nail to deny that prospect. Chan over to Trizin. Trizin will play it patiently. Aurora to fly past the ball like Chan just did, and now all of Cumberland grouped up in V formation, bumping Trizin out of the way is Skyline. They're not going to score, but that play looked goofy.
Cumberland were very calm on that play as well. 3 players are essentially brawling for that ball. That seems like maybe they were a little bit too cluttered in the middle, but it was a setup for a single individual to throw Bama off. Unfortunately, it doesn't work for them. A great recovery to go back, push that player off the ball, off the margin, and really slow things down for Cumberland. It's gone back over towards the Bama goal, but it's a perfect play by Chan, who lines up, just barely misses, but the double tap down, and Cumberland were too static on the attack. Couldn't make it back in time for the defense. And it is a clear-cut goal here for Bama to start things off here at Epic, which is a huge misnomer for them.
No, it is massive, and especially with, well, there's 2 minutes left, which can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how good your scramble defense is, because Cumberland's going to throw everything at you at the end of this game, but Bama's got a lead to defend, and that has got to feel good. But it is worth noting as well, they double committed even on that open net, which that kind of sums up the game for them. But all right, Cumberland's just tied us back up, so Alabama's going to have to find something again. What a play by Magic.
Look at Skyline here as well, essentially bullying through 2 players, and initially just knocked Chan off the ball, was hoping for the another one-on-one scenario like we saw come out just last game. And it kind of comes forward for them, but they show, hey, I can bully and I can also score, and sometimes it takes a little bit of force, a little bit of oomph behind my wheels to get the job done. Great here a move here from Skyline. Just bait off one player, goes a little bit too hard into the paint. Aurora lines up a beautiful shot opportunity. Skyline was in front of it should something be needed, but Chan comes out of nowhere and will send that one away from the net and deny the possibility of a goal. And Cumberland will have to reset for another chance if Bama doesn't get it first, and it is great comedy to do so, just blocked away by Magic.
Aurora, no second touch. Chan giving a little bit of room. And now Gray acting as a lead blocker, hunting for Magic. Doesn't find him. Doesn't find a redirect on the ball either. That goes netward instead into the Cumberland corner and sent deep into that Crimson half. Long clear for Cumberland. Skyline will look to capitalize on it. For a dunk on the back wall of Bama. And they get it. Setting up Aurora for a contest there with Gray. But despite all this, nothing really advancing for Cumberland. They're just waiting for Alabama to give them that direct opening to their net, guarding the ball. They have the opportunity to, and there's a shot that just finds its way in, and Cumberland lead with less than 60 seconds left.
I was about to mention, Bama feel like a much better team so far here in this game. They've been working well together. They actually put a well-spread goal into the back of the net here for Cumberland. They've had a very solid defense. It doesn't feel like they're overextending for too much. In Cumberland, we're going to be relying on the few mistakes that Bama have been making positioning-wise, and I don't even know if that one was purely a positioning mistake for Bama. A very beautifully well-placed goal. Perfect spot for them, and Bama just, it squeaks through them, and it turns into a lead for Cumberland. Now Bama will have to change off that play style that I thought was working so beautifully for them as they start to feel that pressure. They're 2-0 down, and now 2-1 on the scoreline in this final game. The pressure is on, and Cumberland realized that, and they're going to put the same exact pressure off to their net. If it isn't for Trizen down at the other side looking for something, it just doesn't go.
Alabama, though, one last-ditch effort to avoid getting swept. Unsuccessful there, nearly giving up a third. That looked kind of crazy, but the defense had it read. So play going to have to happen on 0 seconds if we are to extend this series. Instead, Cumberland going to take that ball away, ground it, and take us to a 3-0 in our first series on stream. That was a little shocking. I thought it would be a lot closer. I mean, we got a 1-goal game there, but that series really was just Cumberland's from start to finish.
Cumberland felt in control. They looked in control. And even for somebody that doesn't have as much expertise in Rocket League here, Bepic, they played a lot better. You talk about cohesion for a lot of esports. It's very important, but for Rocket League, it's too fast paced for a lot of teams to really keep up with that. They have a game plan going in. They have this idea. But once it gets into the action, they seem to fall apart for a lot of teams. I know that's an issue that can plague a lot of rosters, a lot of games. And for Alabama here, we saw those glimpses. We know that there was a game plan, Bepic. We saw the highlight, saw the beautiful shot from the corner to set up for the 1 goal for Alabama. We saw a lot of things like that in a couple of the games. Maybe not so much game 1. That one was a little bit just Cumberland, it felt like. Game 2 and 3, we saw those glimpses from Bama, and it just wasn't enough to overcome Cumberland because Cumberland had that mindset from the beginning. They didn't feel the pressure. They let it wash off their shoulders, let it pass down across them. Mm-hmm. They just were the better team, I think, at the end of the day. And Bama's going to have to head into their next matchup, reevaluating their choices and probably working in a couple more scrims, high-value scrims, I would say. Not just any game that comes their way, Bepic, but something that's really going to push them into the end.
And with Alabama dropping that series, that leaves just 2 undefeated teams now in Pool 3. Cumberland, who have had to go through for some stiff competition to get that 3-0 mark, having to beat UAB as well as Alabama here, and then Auburn, who have not yet really had stiff competition. But that's a story for a different time. We're going to go to a break before our next series a little bit later. We've got King University, the top dogs in the tournament right now, taking on UNC Charlotte, kind of underdogs that have turned some heads after the first week of play in SEL Season 4. Before the break, of course, shout out to our sponsors, MSI and Red Bull, for making all of this possible. And, well, thanks to them, we get to series after this short break. So stick around for more SEL Season 4 coming up in a bit.
We are dreaming in the dark.
I'm Mr. Bepic, longtime caster for the Southeastern Esports League and just Southeastern Collegiate Rocket League fan in general. So we're about to start a brand new season of the SEL. In fact, it kicked off this past week, so it's already started. So I figured now's a good time to start making some content so I can lend some of the knowledge that I've gained about these teams throughout the years to all of you maybe would-be Southeastern Collegiate Rocket League fans or already fans of the SEL team. So in this video, I'm going to go through a large chunk of the rosters that are competing in SEL Season 4 and give some background info and predictions about where I think these teams are going to end up falling at the end of the season. So I'm going to go through, label them as contenders, dark horses, and underdogs, just to throw some predictions out there as well as information. So hope you enjoy. All right, let's start off with the obvious #1 team to start off with in Kentucky. The reigning champs of the Southeastern Esports League took down South Carolina, UTK, a couple of the favorites last year on land in Huntsville, Alabama. So they're an obvious choice for my first contender in the SEL this season. In week 1, they kind of cruised in their first matchup against a lower seeded team, but they were taken to Game 5 by UNC Charlotte. So maybe something to look out for there, with UNC seemingly being a little bit better than we were all expecting. But Kentucky, they found a way to get a win, showing that this returning roster of Doofy, Unfriable Apples, and Ty still has that clutch factor that allowed them to win on land, and is really one of my favorites to go ahead and win this thing again. And the next team I want to talk about is King University. And the reason they're second in this video is because I think I've got them as my favorites to win the entire thing at the beginning of the season. They cruised through week 1, albeit against Wake Forest and Full Sail Armada, definitely weaker teams in the SEL, but they're competing and playing in rank B kind of bubble tournaments. So they've got that kind of experience, plus Storm and Cynical have been grinding in the bubble scene near the top of it for a long time, and coming into the SEL, that's a lot of experience and skill that they're bringing to the table. I think there's a very small handful of teams that actually have a good chance at beating them, especially when it comes down to the playoffs. So King, definitely my favorites right now. They've just got so much firepower that's going to be difficult for most teams to stop. Next, though, is a team that could definitely keep up with King University, UTK. They went through a roster change over the summer. Agonize is out and Hermes is in, going through kind of a play style change. And like King, they cruised through week 1 again because of weaker teams that they were playing. But UTK, they were arguably the #1 seed going into playoffs last season in the SEL. They came up just short in the grand finals to Kentucky, and they got bracket reset. It was a whole deal, but they were, I think, the best team on that day outside of the grand finals. So UTK, despite the roster change, I think still going to be a force to be reckoned with in the SEL, and definitely one of the biggest threats to the reigning champs in Kentucky and my personal favorites in King. And the next squad I want to talk about, South Carolina. The Gamecocks, they've been SEL champions before, all the way back in Season 2. That was the first season they joined, and going into playoffs last season, they were the #1 seed, and they're returning that roster this season. Solar, Og, and Cats. They've got a lot of experience together. They've got a player that has plenty of bubble scene experience, which is usually very helpful in these kinds of events in Og. I mean, he's made day 2 of RLCS qualifiers on the top side of the bracket. And that's a feat not many Collegiate Rocket League players can say they've got. And so playing around Og like that, I think, is the biggest thing for Cats and Solar. But they were the #1 seed going into playoffs last season. I think they're still a top seed in SEL Season 4 this year, even with the stiffened competition. So absolutely a team to look out for. I don't think the Gamecocks are going anywhere anytime soon. Though the team that caused them the most trouble all the way back in SEL Season 2, that seemed destined to win that whole thing, was Florida State. And this team has also been together for so long. Luigi and Fries are one of the best duos in the entirety of the SEL. Foof and I love watching them play. Trix, he didn't get to play on LAN last season in the playoffs, and that might have affected their performance, but he's back. And this FSU team really is a quiet contender. They're always kind of a quiet contender in the SEL. They are never the flashiest, but they get the job done and they can really upset some top teams. So FSU, I'm absolutely looking at as maybe a contender on the lower side of this list, but absolutely still a contender with the experience they've got, the amount of time they've been in the SEL, and the success that they've found here, and starting off dominantly through week 1 as well. That's a pretty crucial factor in the beginning of their run through SEL Season 4. And next up, as we approach the end of this contenders list, is Cumberland, which is a team that I was less familiar with coming into this season, but I'm very eager to watch. They've got Magic, Skyline, and Aurora. Aurora being a former competitor in the SEL, playing for UAH kind of back in the day, but this is a high-ranked roster, and one that 3-0'd UAB in week 1 of the SEL, which UAB's a solid team, and 3-0ing them is a pretty good notch in the belt. So Cumberland definitely one to keep an eye on to see how they get going through this season and who they're able to take down and where they finish in groups. So absolutely a contender, absolutely one to keep an eye on. And the final team that I've got in my list of contenders is FAU, Florida Atlantic University. They're a new addition to the SEL this season, but if you follow CRL at all, you'll definitely recognize the name of this university and absolutely one of their players, Hammy Crackers. He is definitely the carry of this team, and that's not to slight Mitra and Damage at all. That's just to say that this is another one of those rosters that has an incredibly high-level player that's done some damage in some RLCS qualifiers to play around, and that's kind of the key for FAU. They were on stream, our first match of the season. They took on Clemson, long-standing SEL roster Clemson, and they beat them 3-1. It was close, it was competitive, but ultimately Hammy Crackers just kind of took over, and I didn't get to watch what happened in the University of Florida series that they played, but a 3-1 win over Florida in week 1 of the SEL, add that to the Clemson victory on stream, that is a big start for FAU and a big statement of what they're capable of, because Florida, albeit a very new team, completely new to the A team this season for the Gators, but FAU taking them down 3-1, still an SSL team that they beat in 4 games. So I was teetering on the edge for FAU. Wasn't sure if they were a contender or if they were a dark horse, but after their week 1 performance, starting off 2-0 in a very difficult group, I absolutely think they're a potential contender to win the entire season. All right, now we're moving into the dark horses, and this is where this video really gets interesting, because these are teams I think could run with the contenders, but I'm not completely comfortable saying that they're going to make a deep run in this season of the SEL. So the list is kind of long here, but I think that's justified with how competitive the SEL is this season. So I'm going to start off. The first team I'm going to list as a dark horse is one that has been with the Southeastern Esports League for a long time, UAH Blue, the A team for UAH. And the reason I do the finger quotation marks is because UAH White is very close in skill level to this UAH Blue team, but they are the A team, so I'm going to give them the first nod from the UAH camp. But that comes with a caveat. There's a lot of pressure that comes with being the A team, and UAH Blue started out 0-2 in the SEL this season. They lost to Oklahoma and UNCC, and UNCC, that was shocking at first, but after the Kentucky series that they played, I think that's not a bad loss for UAH Blue. But losing to Oklahoma, who is definitely on the lower side of the SEL this season, is a pretty bad loss for UAH Blue. And B-More did say in RL chat that he was lagging the entire time that they were playing, so maybe that played a factor into it. But regardless, UAH Blue is still starting out 0-2, and there are only 7 series to be played in group play. So they've got a lot of ground to make up throughout the rest of league play, and I think it's doable. They've got some series they should most certainly be winning, and maybe some that they shouldn't, but I don't think they're going out 7th and 8th in their group. I think they'll be all right, but like I said, a lot of ground to make up, especially with UNCC and how well they've been playing through week 1. And I mentioned earlier, I talked about Kentucky, and obviously I just talked about them now beating UAH Blue, but coming in as a team that I really didn't know much about. I had low expectations for them. I think in my preseason predictions, had them finishing 5th in their group, but now, honestly, they're a top 3 contender, could book a spot into playoffs after league play is said and done, because that hot start, beating UAH Blue and then nearly beating Kentucky in that series, that is phenomenal. It's how you want to start, as you say, you get the momentum rolling, and that bumped them up. I didn't have them as a dark horse going into this video, or going into week 1 rather. They were an underdog for me, but they're a dark horse now, and I'm excited to see what they can do the rest of the season. And the next 2 teams I've got in my dark horses category are Georgia State and UGA. I'm going to combine them talking about these 2 squads because they're both from Georgia and they both have captains that were longtime teammates. So I feel like this is a justified combination. But both of them on the high side, the dark horses for me. Both SSL teams, both very much capable of maybe making some upsets happen, but they didn't have the same start to the season. UGA, very dominant. They beat Clemson, they beat Arkansas, and went 6-0 in games across those 2 series. But Georgia State, they just went 1-1. They split a series, or they split their 2 series against UAB. They got the win there, and they lost to Alabama, who I think I would rate at about even footing with Georgia State, but they still lost the series. So not quite the same hot start from Georgia State as UGA had, but you know, there's time left in league play to make a statement. But Georgia State and UGA, I really think they could make a run. I don't know if I would consider them top 2 teams in their groups getting through the contenders that are in their respective pools, but I definitely think they're top 4, top half rosters in their pools. It's just a matter of, can they get over the hump with some of the higher seeded teams that they're going to have to play when it comes down to league play. Next team in my dark horses list is the University of Alabama. The A team for this school is completely rebuilt. Well, I say completely, for the most part rebuilt around Chan, their captain. For this upcoming season of the SEL. They had a down year in SEL Season 3. They didn't make playoffs, but now for Season 4, they've got an old Auburn player in Gray competing for them, and then a very young prospect, but exciting one in Trizen. And Alabama, they started out 2-0 in the SEL. They are in stacked Pool B, but they took down Georgia State and East Carolina for their first 2 series, which I think those are teams that Alabama should be beating, but they beat them. They got the job done, and they're starting out on the right foot. And their schedule only gets harder from here. They still have Auburn. They still have Cumberland to go through, but so far so good for Alabama, and I'm excited to see where they go. Clemson has not had the start to the SEL season that I think they were hoping for. Longtime team in the SEL. They've been here since Season 0. Snipes has been here since Season 0. And they're starting out 0-2. That's a lot of experience, but this team is rebuilding for the most part. They lost a lot of good players. Snipes is the only returner from the A team from last season in the SEL, and his veteran experience is going to be phenomenal for this roster because they're bringing up B team talent and they're bringing in fresh talent. Darth Pepe coming up from the Clemson B team that those that follow the SEL remember made a run through the last chance qualifier last season to get the A team the chance to play on LAN. It was a legendary moment, and Darth Pepe is going to be bringing up some solid experience from that as well. But Masao, the new freshman, first freshman to make the A team in Clemson Rocket League history, I believe is what they said. That's an exciting prospect, and I'm interested to see what Masao can do. Looked a little nervous against FAU on stream on Wednesday, but you know, you settle into a season, you get things going, and you have to dig yourself out of a hole if you're Clemson. So good and bad to start the season for them, but I think they'll be fine making it out of Pool 1. They've got their B team underneath them. They have the University of Tulsa, who Champ 2 average there. So I think they'll be safe to make it into the last chance qualifier at the very least. And, once you get into the LCQ, anything can happen. But they're going to have a tough time placing top 2 in Pool 1. And for a team as storied as Clemson is in the SEL, that's got to be a little bit disappointing. But I am excited to see how this roster develops in its new form throughout the season. Welcome back to the SEL. We hopefully you enjoyed that video of mine. It was a Bepic to Bepic cut going straight from my video, which if you want the full thing, you can see on my YouTube channel at Mr. Bepic. But I digress. Hopefully you enjoyed.
Here, huh?
Yeah, of course. What else is the point of this stream if I don't get to plug my own stuff, Scott? But
honestly, go ahead.
Yeah.
It's too much effort for me to hire a new talent than it is to correct you. So just keep doing it.
That's how I entrench myself in these kinds of things. You've
been here too long. You're now a part of us, your family, so I can't kick you out for that.
But all right, back to the real business. I know all of you really tuned in to watch my face talk about these teams and not actually watch these teams, but now you get to see some actual Rocket League on your screen. We got King University and we got UNC Charlotte, our second match of the day, Scott. And we were talking in the green room before this. I was giving you the lowdown, and I was telling you that King is my favorite to win this entire thing. And UNC Charlotte's going to have a big uphill climb going into this series.
Yeah, you wouldn't shut up about it, Bepic. I was honestly over and over and over again, King this, King that, King this, King that. And then you said you specifically chose this game because you think King are going to win it 2-0, just not even a third game needed. They're just going to forfeit for UNC Charlotte. I think that was the words you said because they'd get beat so bad in the first two. I can't remember what the entire thing was, but you were really harping in that UNC Charlotte had no chance going into this series. I want to prove them otherwise. I think UNC Charlotte have absolutely the absolute best faculties to be able to take this on, the best chances possible here. King University, gods can bleed. That's proven in Superman v Batman. That movie was terrible, but we at least can see something good here today. Maybe a movie of our own with a bit of an upset story.
All right, for those of you that don't know to take everything Scott says with a grain of salt, so I predicted a 3-1 in favor of King, but UNC Charlotte, coming into this season, I didn't rate them very highly. They proved me wrong last week with their upset victory over UAH Blue and their Game 5 loss against the reigning champs in Kentucky. And here they are scoring first, so maybe it's time they prove me wrong again.
I don't know. Looks like the Kings may lose their crown here, Bepic. Something starting off on the hot foot, not even 14 seconds in. And UNCC have already stated up on the board that it is their win to hold on to. Another shot opportunity coming up. This one for King University. They put something off pitch. But unfortunately, everything seems to go a bit too skyward. It's caused a couple of problems. And it does seem like UNCC are running into a couple of problems when it comes down to clearing that ball away. Because every time we've seen it even get to the middle of the pitch, King meet it right there. And Turbo! What a shot to send that one in. Great assistance from Cynical. The Turbo meets it high, puts it high, and drills it down.
That's the scary part about King, and why I've got them as my favorites to win this whole thing is because they just hit shots like that with such consistency that it's so difficult to play against them. Like, you give a regular player in this league space like that, they might not hit the shot. Turbo does, so does Lazy. It's not quite as flashy, but it's just as effective.
UNC Charlotte coming out on the board, singing yet another goal into the back of the net as soon as Bepic sings praises. Honestly, this is Caster's Curse at its finest here, Bepic. I don't think I've ever seen a better showcase for that, besides any time Mick ever opens his mouth on a Valor broadcast. This is crazy to see. And Charlotte are back to the point where they're going to say, we're holding on to the lead. We just need to play proper defense, still keep up the pressure. But we don't have to stress ourselves as much about putting a goal in the back of the net. We just need to keep King on their toes. And they're doing so quite well. King's defense has been lackluster. A lot of holes, so to say, not even in the net as you'd expect it to be, but in their back line in the first place. Their offense has seemed insurmountable when they do get it down the field. And it's been a tough time for Charlotte, but the defense has been lacking, and Charlotte has already proven that twice.
Right there, even a big opportunity for UNC Charlotte. King not quite settled down in here, forced to be unsettled by a bump play on the goal line. Big Wade is going to recover. Cynical chases the ball downfield, tries to take it away from UNCC and is successful, but the ball falls right into Big Wade's arms at the midfield line. They will have to retreat, King will, but that's, again, a lot of space for Turbo to work with. And with his mechanical ability, UNCC could be paying dividends but the wrong way. I guess the evil kind of dividends if they keep giving King that kind of room to work with.
Still plenty of chances on the board for King to be able to find their second goal. This was maybe the best opportunity they had, but not enough oomph behind that hits. It goes a little bit short of that goal line. Nothing to hit on that side post. It'll be cleared away by UNC Charlotte. They get another opportunity to send it off towards King, but this one really just a clearance for them. They weren't acting as if it was really with intent. No intent behind it past that. King have a lot of chances here. It's been lined up, but playing a demo, but it's not good enough. The defense of UNC Charlotte has been proven they can bleed just the same. Too many players committing to the 2-on-1 ball scenario there, and Speedy has no chance to get back into the net to save graces, and that ties things up 2-2. King are all but done.
I don't know why Coolio Plutio dove for that ball. With Lazy falling right in front of Coolio, Coolio still jumps forward and leaves the net completely vacated. And King can definitely hit that. I mean, you saw the first goal that they hit. They can certainly score an easy ground shot. Almost hit that one, but it was back in time. UNCC just at a tie ball game. The benefits of having a pair of leads in this game, and now in counterattack mode, nearly finding a third. Cynical dive back just in the nick of time to make a save to keep this ball game tied. But UNCC, when they have the game leveled on them, it's like a different level is unlocked, and they get right back to playing offense and scoring.
It's as if there's too much of a difference here, Bapik, between their playstyle as a defending majority team and their attacking, needing to catch up team. They need to keep the same playstyle, honestly. That's been the most working strategy when they're playing that assaulting attack style we've seen at 0-0, at 1-1, at 2-2. They're scoring goals, and they're also denying opportunities from King, though their defense hasn't been long-lived because it hasn't been very long. The game has been tied in those times, but it just feels like King are doing a little bit better when we're seeing a much more passive playstyle come out here. Except for right there, I'd say. A little bit overexpending, a little bit too many players down the pitch line. Lazy missing is something that could have easily been theirs, and it cost the team a goal, and it's going to tie things back up 3-3, where UNC Charlotte, they can show us here once again what it means to be tied up against the Kings.
That side flip really hurts, because Lazy probably could have gotten to that ball, but instead gave up another open net to King. That's how they've been scoring in this game, is open nets, either forcing UNCC to capitulate defensively or UNCC kind of doing it on their own, like on that last play. But now that we're tied up again, that new level of UNCC's offense most certainly going to be unlocked, and I'm sure scoring their fourth goal and go-ahead goal, 75 seconds left soon, right?
I have to expect it to come within the next 30 seconds. We've had very few droughts so far in this game, and it's been Charlotte that's opened things up. You see, Charlotte have done a wonderful job of opening things up in terms of tempo, in terms of a pace in the first place. And I'm seeing a little bit passivity from them. I think the pressure from Kings is starting to add up. They're not finding an answer to it just yet with this strategy. Kings are starting to find something that's working for them. Most of this pressure on ball has been on the UNC Charlotte side of the pitch. We finally get to see it go over to the Kings side, but Cynical, all by their lonesome, will send it high and ride it all the way to the other end and just throw things back in the face of UNC Charlotte.
Still, UNCC now in a 2v1 that they win. Can't get the goal, though. A pair of saves, one by the post and the second by Turbo, denying UNCC the go-ahead goal. And now King, the other side of the pitch, getting very close to stealing this game at the end of game one. Cynical to the back wall. Speedy will spike the ball down, but no second touch. Keep the ball in the name of King, though Turbo misses. The Cynical, Big Wade slammed the ball off the UNCC back wall, and it's all kinds of awkward right now. Both sides of the close pair of opportunities, but no one capitalizing, despite some weird play on the defensive ends.
Overtime, all but guaranteed. We're going into it, and this is going to be an onslaught of attack coming out from both sides. Charlotte will get the better end of it right off the rip. Now keeping the ball on that King side of the pitch, but a great combo coming in, especially from Cynical to clear it down on the other end. They'll restabilize that defensive position, letting the side of UNC Charlotte get on the aggressive once again, where they're going to start to send things back the other way with Lazy being demoed out by Big Wade. It's all pressure now moving forward for the Kings. They want to send this down the pitch. Great play from Cynical, top rafters, but unfortunately sent away by Turbo, too high in the first place, but the job's not done. Big Wade will send it back down the screen and hope the rest of the team can close out and get it centered up, but too far away is Cynical.
For the majority of this game, UNCC had the bulk of the field domination, which means we played a lot of that first 5 minutes of regulation on the King University end, but it's been flipped in the last minute and a half or so. King have had so much pressure going their way. UNCC, though, they're not relenting despite all of that King aggression, but finally they break in overtime. Took 65 seconds, but King on top.
It's so impressive to see King head into this one down, but not out at the very beginning here, Bepic. I know you've been highlighting King this, King that. I'll make as many jokes about that as possible. But UNC Charlottes, they came in and they set the tempo early. They set the tone of the entire match as a whole, if not the whole series as a whole here, Bepic. And they get answered back by King, who says, yeah, we're struggling for the first 3 minutes, even first 4 minutes, truly. That final 90 seconds, though, like you mentioned, that last minute and a half was just King controlling where the ball was, how they wanted to play it. Yeah, there was some scary things sent out by UNC Charlotte. There was a little bit there, but there wasn't enough to change how that game was going to turn out. And
despite all of the good looks from UNCC in the offensive end, sorry, I'm dealing with the back end stuff right now, but despite all of the good looks from UNCC, I only caught like half of what you were saying there, Scott. I was focused on what the players were saying, but they looked so good offensively, and yet they still can't topple King. And that's such a testament to how good King is. I'll keep going on the King positive rampage because I've watched them so much over the summer playing in a bubble league, but they just find ways to win. And they're playing without Storm right now, who's one of their starters. Big Wade, whom I love, is subbing in for the team and doing such a good job of it. You wouldn't even notice that Storm is gone because Big Wade filling the shoes very well. And King getting it done in overtime. Their defense was just good enough to put them in a spot to win, and eventually UNCC broke in that overtime. So going into game two, UNCC just got to continue to upgrade their play because King is not going to get worse. They're only going to get better, and their highs are some of the highest in the league. So I'm very curious to see how UNCC adjusts and if their defense can figure out the King issue that's heading towards their goal.
I can see why you're a fan of King, considering you're from Auburn as well. Auburn's the king of fourth quarter comebacks. Immediately a goal coming out from UNC Charlotte. Impressive. Auburn's the king of fourth quarter comebacks in college football, and you're seeing a Kings team in match one essentially do the exact same thing of a fourth quarter comeback. The final minute and a half of just them controlling the game when they were struggling to keep themselves involved, having to make that comeback goal every single time with Charlotte taking the first. They truly came back in that fourth quarter effort. And I like a lot of that's not because, drowning and trying to I guess way down on the minds and I would say physicality of the side of UNC Charlotte. They're not tired whatsoever. It just becomes they understood how Charlotte played from that point onwards and were able to counteract that very well. Not sure why this first goal went through. It's a bad kickoff for the side of the Kings, but nothing that they can't necessarily come back from.
I mean, they nearly did. They almost tied us up right there. There were two UNC Charlotte players kind of flat-footed on the goal line, but he wasn't able to capitalize on that, though. Starting to generate a little bit more possession in this first minute. Lazy on zero boost, setting up UNCC well. Speedy diving in as third man, and that's going to put Lazy in just an awkward position. Ooh. They do well to make that save, and UNCC will rotate back, but this is not a great spot for them. They are low on boost. They got to refuel, and they got to avoid King, who again, kind of playing with their food, looking for passes center, looking for direct shots, whatever it takes at the moment, whatever they need. That's what they're going for. Their offense is so effective at finding the best lane to goal.
Feels like half the time in Rocket League, it turns into a boxing match of poking and prodding back and forth, finding the one jab that opens up for the uppercut. But for Kings, it feels more like an MMA match. They're on the ground, they're on the tarp, they're standing up, they're working in jabs, they throw in a kick, which is definitely not allowed in boxing. They throw in something that's unexpected, and I just feel like UNC Charlotte, a lot of the times we can see when they sit a little bit more on their haunches, are caught off guard by how many flurries, how many blows that we're seeing Kings send their way. Kings put up a goal, ties things up 1-1. Long shot by Lazy, just think it was a sent down the pitch. Cleared away, though, quite cleanly by the Kings, and they'll put something on in the attack. If it wasn't for the fact that Turbo gets slightly tipped on the flank, and it throws off the initial swing in for the play.
UNCC is still kind of struggling in defense at the moment. A lot of double commits, a lot of players in the same area. Julio Pludio is going to find a clear. That should help alleviate a little bit of that pressure, but Turbo's going to beat one. Cynical the second. Second touch pushes this ball deep into UNCC territory. Dangerous ball here. In comes Big Wade. Playing off the back wall, setting up Turbo for a shot. He will have the block, but again, King getting very close to scoring the go-ahead goal, and there it is. You felt like it was a long time coming, and it's Cynical that puts it in with a nice ceiling play.
Turbo's a little upset they didn't get their goal just moments prior, but Cynical squeaking that one by the only defending player, and Coolio Pludio just, there's no way to stabilize their wheels on the ground to get over there in the first place. No boost, no concern. It is Kings now taking the lead and trying to hold on to it for as long as possible. The only time we've seen them take the lead when it wasn't OT. Something new for the Kings side so far here in UNC versus Charlotte. Tobo go up high. They'll send it down the pitch, working down the sideline for the time being. It gets sent back the other way by the Charlotte side, and they're trying to put something down into the net. But King have done a wonderful job of keeping this in the air, where Charlotte have been struggling to find high impact blows against this ball to put any true pressure into the net.
Well, there's a little bit of pressure into the net. Turns into a second goal for UNCC. Speedy just beat two King University players right in their face. Coolio Pludio puts it center, and that's as simple of a goal in Rocket League as you can get. That's a team play at the very least. Put the ball in the middle and see what your teammate can do with it. It works.
Sometimes slow and steady wins the race. No need to just hammer that ball down the field like you're an Alabama roster we just saw just last series. Sometimes a slow and steady play into your center man who just plops it between the two of them works out. One way or another. Tie ball game though. 2-2. 2 minutes left on the clock as well. And it looks like UNC Charlotte are not done bringing the pressure. Big Wade sends that to the corner. Cynical tries to go up and meet it, but Speedy will bump them just enough. Big Wade in there. It's cleared away by Cynical just slightly. And it goes down pitch. Turbo. A goal for King. How did that get out of there? I'm amazed that Cynical touched that in time. And they used that perfectly for the goal.
There was so much panic in Big Wade's headlights right there. And then Cynical and Turbo translate that into a team pinch goal that I don't think anyone on the field was expecting to actually turn into a score. And now Cynical dribbling close to a fourth goal for King, but wow. I mean, you look at plays like that, and King just seems unstoppable. But UNCC, despite the odds, despite the low boost situations they have been in this entire game, on average, lower boost than King by about 10%. They're still hanging with this roster, hanging with one of the top teams in this league. It's a one-goal game, under 90 seconds to play. UNCC will not go away.
Big Wade just trying their best to sit still for the Kings side. They want to make sure if there's a chance they can bump it away from the UNC Charlotte side. Looks like they've been given a chance to do so. Cynical plays it high. Speedy will have to meet it. They go for the aerial. A second touch from a teammate, though, goes a bit too high. Blazy, quick on the draw, snipes it down to the corner of the goal. And we'll make sure that there is no chance King holds on to the lead for too much longer. Cynical predicted the play to the left side of that goal, and just unfortunately for them, slightly too far off on the other side.
UNCC continuing to add to their stock. It just continues to increase. Their performance against Kentucky last week. Now this great performance against King. They continue this offensive onslaught. It's broken up by Turbo. That shot isn't on. It wasn't a team pinch, so it's not going to find its way in the open net. You got to make it a little more complicated, King. Simple ones, not going to be effective.
Sorry, only UNC Charlotte's allowed to score simple goals here.
Yeah.
The Kings are not allowed to put something as simple as that. It has to be a team pitch, an aerial with a fourth juggle in the air between three different teammates. It's got to be fancy. Charlotte are very much so it feels like they do the dirty work as simple as they can, and it's been working. And I do think that Kings are a team that has been working very well together. They bring some more complicated plays, like we saw in our series prior, where we saw a lot more coming out from Cumberland. But honestly, despite that, the Alabama this side, the more simple team of UNC Charlotte, are at the same level right now for the more complicated setup team as Kings. And it's very impressive, and it's led to a second overtime here on our second match.
That's another 3-3 overtime. Let's see if King can snatch another game. An extra period of Rocket League. UNCC, I think the team trending in the direction of more possession, but King can find goals out of seemingly nothing sometimes, like that team pinch play earlier. But starting from their defensive end. UNCC with pace, moving towards that green goal. Cynical shut down. Speedy ball off the back wall. It comes Coolio Pludio, denied by Turbo. That simple goal not going to work out this time.
Turbo playing themselves just perfectly where they were needed. The Kings hold on for now. Great shot by Coolio Pludio. They've been trying time and time out, but it's being saved so consistently by the Kings. Their defense seems unstoppable. What we've seen, it's got its weak links. And it's going to be another chance coming out here for the Kings, though. The demo to Speedy means there's only 2 players down the pitch. The third joins in with a hasty clearance by Speedy. And while Turbo works in from the corner, it beats 2 players. And Big Wayne goes for it, but not enough oomph, not enough power. And Speedy will clear it, and they'll work it on their own offensive.
As he plays it high, it's a bad touch by Turbo, giving Coolio Pludio a chance to win it again. Forced a pretty much triple commit off the goal line of King. They'll have to recover from. The boost situation isn't great on the King side. Just one player with enough boost to make a play, but despite all that, UNCC still can't break through. Another big save by Cynical. It's his 3rd of the game. 7 made by King on 10 shots from UNCC, who continue an onslaught with the occasional defensive spurt that they have to play when King finds a clear, but we keep playing overtime, approaching 2 minutes. The last one just lasted 65 seconds here. We'll have to hit 120.
They're epitomizing the phrase of they can't block everything. Eventually, something's going to go in. The old NBA strategy for the U.S. national team, just shoot enough shots, eventually it's going to go in. The chances are likely. And it's working out for UNC Charlotte. Unfortunately, it's been a catch-up game for the Kings, and they've gotten there. 2 minutes already having elapsed here at OT, and a minute before that, a time at which neither of these 2 teams were able to put up a goal. A drought, so to say, in the latter half. And it is continuing here, despite the presence from UNC Charlotte, despite the fact that the Kings have been doing wonderful in clearing this lazy. They're in the last moments. Speedy, no! Couldn't make it in time, and it's dunked in by Turbo for the Kings, taking this one 2-0, possibly even 3 as we head into our next one.
King, they lived on the counterattack for the entirety of that overtime. They stomached so many UNCC shots, and eventually they found their opening, and it was Turbo that hit it. Turbo and Cynical, 2 goals each. What a performance by the duo of regular starters for King. But UNCC, Scott, like I have to compliment them. Despite the loss, they put up so many shots, so much pressure against King, and did so much with so little boost that I'm extremely impressed, even despite the loss that they were handed in game 2.
And keep in mind, this is a team that there's plenty more room for growth. We saw obviously some glaring weaknesses on their defense where they maybe overextended themselves, didn't have somebody back. They went for in game 1, they went for a double play on a ball that was needed just for the solo that caused a goal that honestly, if that goal wasn't taken in favor for Kings, would have netted them game 1, and this would have been a 1-1 series to this point. These little mistakes for their team and how solid they are on the attack, how suffocating it feels like. I'm having trouble breathing half the time watching them barrel in on that Kings side of the pitch. I don't know how they're surviving half of these engagements. The balls are slow, the shots are plentiful, and it just, they've been squeaking through perfectly. And Cynical has been a saving grace for that Kings side on the ball, but when they're not there, man, do UNC Charlotte manage to squeak that one forward? They've got so much more room for growth on top of it. They really are that Mr. Bepic dark horse special that you were talking about. I think they've got to be slipped in that one for next week's episode.
I mean, we got to finish the video next week, although it's going to be out of date. I think UNCC looking right now like a potential contender if they're able to play like this against King. Of course, King, they've got big weight in. They're missing Storm. I'm wondering how different it would be if the full starting roster was here, but UNCC don't care. All they care about is the Rocket League right in front of them, and for the 3rd straight game, UNC Charlotte is scoring first.
I mean, they've been able to start things off on a solid foot, but their ending, their conclusion has been missing. It's good to get the go-ahead goal, but they've got to hold on to that tempo. They're going to hold on to that presence. And they're going to have to do a better job on the defense to be able to do so. Cynical going for a flip reset. I think they managed to tag it, but it's still taken away just off their front wheel. But it goes in for UNC Charlotte. Lazy, the proprietor of that steal, rides that high all the way forward, perfectly dribbling it across their hood. And Turbo skids a bit too far. Deja vu, yeah, it's 2 in a row now for UNC Charlotte.
Add that to the lazy highlight reel. That was beautiful. The control off the side wall and then into the perfect flick to place it above Turbo's head. That, I'll have to watch that one a little bit later. I wish I'd made that video we showed on stream a little bit later so I could have put that in the UNCC section. But either way, it's a big goal for them. A 2-goal lead in Game 3 has got to feel great because, of course, they have to reverse sweep, and a few more things start falling their way. That reverse sweep is most certainly possible.
You start uploading a highlight section instead weekly here, Bepic, for the
Maybe.
teams that are up on broadcast. Even if you can't necessarily tune in and VOD view completely, some of the teams here can look at these and go, okay, well, they're pretty scary. We'll show only the best parts. They look the best. But speaking of the best, King, who else but Turbo, descended from their own side of the pitch once again off a great collab play from Cynical. And Lazy was nowhere near trying to get their boost that they were lacking so heavily in that last match just prior. It's a 2-1 score.
I don't know how there was that much power on that ball. That was a hook shot to end all hook shots from King. And like I said, they score from just about anywhere. They can make something out of nothing. And here's Cynical doing it again, putting the ball center, but there wasn't any follow-up that time around. The nothing stayed nothing. Now UNCC, it's their turn to create. Flick from Coolio Plutio, deflected by Cynical. Another great save from him on the King goal line. That allows an out for King, but it's a short-lived one. UNCC right back to playing offense.
Lazy having to fall back ever so slightly. Coolio Plutio will send that over to the left corner side of that King side of the pitch. Big Way trying to play it away. He doesn't get enough oomph in the distance, and it allows for another recentering by UNC Charlotte. Unfortunately, because of the play that was being going on, the bumpage that was coming forward by Kings, the rest of the side, Bar and Coolio Plutio was forced to fall back and reset up for the attack. Speedy with a slight hesitation. Baits off one, but Big Wade gets that center stage, and they'll send that one back over to that UNC Charlotte side of the pitch, and it is becoming a little bit tougher. Lazy with the initial miss. Too high, Lazy! If you just left it or let it go slightly lower, but another goal for Charlotte, but a missed opportunity sets it up for Turbo, but they're just barely saved by Coolio Plutio.
Oh, Turbo's turning on this. He'll pop it up, but lack of control gives the ball away to UNCC, but they give it right back. And both teams fighting for possession at the moment, though. It's in the air, of course. That's where King like to play it. UNCC, who have been out-boosted, who on average have had lower boosts as a team relative to King. You think these consistently aerial plays from King would be the death of UNCC, but they're surviving it right there. They get out of UNCC, or they get out of King setting up their offense, but it's not for long. Eventually, King, they are going to score. Great interception by Cynical, the extra touch by Big Wade. That's just, that's gorgeous again from these players on the pitch.
You mentioned the aerial plays from King seemed like almost too much for UNCC, and they were struggling against it, but they were still holding on. But let it be the goal that ties things up 2-2 is the player just waiting down on the pitch, not using any boost, just letting the ball come to them. No need to jump up for it, truly. Just need a little bit of power right at the final stages. That's where UNC Charlotte were starting to look away from. They were looking high in the sky. Their eyes were drawn upwards, and unfortunately, they needed to stay down on the pitch alongside the rest of the roster. Shot opportunity coming out from Charlotte. They failed to put in the back of the net, though, and the good centering coming out from the Kings. The pressure is on. Coolio Plutio forced to alleviate that concern. They'll put it to the corner. Big Wade, the sub coming in for the Kings, has been paramount. So a lot of the defensive positions coming out for the side of the Kings. They'll keep that one away as Turbo tries to clear it once again, but the pressure is on for Charlotte. They're doing a wonderful job, and now the hands are in Lazy, who has stepped onto the defense successfully, something that has been troubling the UNC Charlotte side for some of these breakaway opportunities for the Kings.
Right now, that fact is a little concerning for UNCC because we are tied, but really this game has turned into a back-and-forth affair. Counter-attack heavy Rocket League at the business end of Game 3. Both sides tied. UNCC needing a win, but they are slowly forming an offensive. Coolio can't secure that midfield boost, but possession in the name of UNCC, despite an interception there by King. UNCC continuing to play on their offensive zone, which is so impressive. The boost situation I keep talking about, the ball control of King, all of that should be working against UNCC, but they're setting up their end game offense perfectly right now with 30 seconds left. They look poised for a last-ditch effort at maybe avoiding overtime in this series.
Still, simple goal opportunities, simple shot opportunities coming out for UNC Charlotte. Maybe it's the only thing that's being given to them, which is why we're only seeing those shots come out from them. But it's something that in these last few minutes, it seems like the Kings have capitalized in on. They realized the UNC Charlotte side are a little bit too one-dimensional on those attacking positions. We just need to sit static in goal, 2 players on the defense, let one meet the ball. We play smart Rocket League, and we win smart games. But the problem is then come into their attack. A lot better job from UNC Charlotte to play back on that defense, and now their best position right on kickoff. They've scored every beginning goal. They're looking to do so here again. Speedy goes out for a big Wade will clear, and Cynical now is to put this to the back of the net where Turbo's waiting, and it's over. Beautiful play punishing UNC Charlotte, the team that tries so dang hard. Epic, right off the rip of every kickoff, is punished for going too hard in the paint.
I can't believe how close UNCC kept this series, and it's still going to be a 3-0 sweep. We had 3 overtimes, and it's still going to go down as a sweep. That hurts me inside.
The average like 2.75 goals a game, right? It was 3-3, 3-3, and then 2-2. The amount of goals that were scored was insane in regulation time, right? It was too impressive coming out from UNC Charlotte, who, if Bepic says it, I believe it has to be so. King are obviously the favorites going into the series. UNC Charlotte were that dark horse, that team that needed to prove themselves. I think they did. I think even with the loss and with the loss they had previously, like you mentioned, against Kentucky, they proved they can dog. They proved they can absolutely drive with the best of them. And they're going to be a team you have to look out for, because they're going to only face pretty much easier competition from this point onwards. On a baseline scale, having to face King in Kentucky very early, they're a team that's going to sneak up on that standings. You're gonna forget about them. You're gonna see, oh, they're sitting so low. Next thing you know, they're sitting 4th or even 3rd in the list by the end of the season.
I mean, the hardest part of their schedule's over, because they played Kentucky last week. They played King this week. Oklahoma, Full Sail, and Montevallo are their 3 remaining series, and I would have them as favorites in all of those. So that's 3 wins for you. The Oklahoma one should be more of a struggle than the other 2, but they should be finishing about 4-2. I think that puts UNCC. No, that'd be 5-2. So top of the table, thereabouts for UNCC. And if Kentucky or King slip up, they are right there. But King showed us here, Scott, that they don't slip up very easily. And when they do, they're very good at recovering quickly and still finding a way to get the win.
Honestly, if there's a way to phrase it in a way that would make my dad happy, because he's a big Rocket League nerd, it looks like UNC Charlotte are a team that stepped into a match as if they just queued and got put in a lobby, and they play basic Rocket League really well together. There was nothing that screamed. They're setting up beautiful corner plays all the time. They're just saying, there's probably someone in the middle. I'm going to play this corner. I'm going to set up for my team. I'm going to trust whatever is over there. They knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing individually, but they didn't have anything that was super fancy that screams out like we saw from King, like we saw from Cumberland in the match prior. Mm-hmm. But what a presence, what a difference we saw in the basic level from the Alabama roster to this one. It just was a total different play style. And if I could get a Q match, a normal, 3v3 match that was ever as good with teammates as UNC Charlotte were doing, I would do it in a heartbeat. I'd make a deal with someone I should never make a deal with. Probably the guy who owns Epic, because he now owns Rocket League or whatever. But I mean, goodness gracious, that is a team that knows what they're doing. Imagine they take that next level here, Epic. Imagine they take that step like King has done, where they start working in those plays. They start working in the antics, so to say, and they go above and beyond. I definitely think they're a team you have to look for. I want to know how old these players are, what year they are in college, because if they got more than 2 years left together as a team, they may be the team to look out for here in 3 more seasons here for SEL.
Well, I think we just got a great preview of a potential future matchup, both in the postseason of the fall split, maybe on LAN a little later in the year, and perhaps you're right, down the road a couple of years from now. But that does do it for today's broadcast of Rocket League here in SEL. We have Valorant tomorrow, of course. I've got a guy in the booth with me that knows a thing or two about that. Scott, you know anything about tomorrow's broadcast?
Not a thing. Not a clue.
Okay. Sounds about right.
They throw us under the bus. Casters. They're like, oh, casters picked the games. We were just told like 2 different matches to pick and just said pick between these 2. And we picked the ones that sounded with cool names. So if you have a cool university name, you probably got picked. It's about our understanding.
That's how it works on the Valorant side of the broadcast right there, ladies and gentlemen. That's the
Hey,
peek
we're honest.
behind the curtains.
We're
But
honest.
yeah, well, you'll get to watch them tomorrow at 6 to 8 Central Time, 7 to 9 Eastern. So make sure you tune in tomorrow. Same channel, HSV Gaming Oasis. Of course, one last shout out to MSI and Red Bull, our two sponsors, helping put this whole thing together monetarily. Of course, Fred, Pranav, Colt, all the people in the background, our talent director, Infernosis, whoever that guy is. Big thanks to all of them behind the scenes. But Scott, thanks for joining me in the booth today.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you guys very much for having me. I hope you guys have a great day.
Peace out.
These nights could freeze my conscience. Your body seems so harmless. Oh, I started in a hotel lobby, cleaned up just to get too sloppy. Things I showed you, I can't drop me. Ooh, after the daylight, it started in a hotel. It started in a hotel. I'll see you. Some ice cold drinks in this dark room. We went from a high school friendship to some postcard actions. Saw some sweat fall off your face into the dance floor, babe. Dance on, babe. Sweat falls off my face inside. Stand up, babe. Stand up. Stand up. It's nights like this we're wide awake. It's times like this you shy away from me, babe. Started in a hotel lobby, cleaned up just to get too sloppy. Things I showed you, I can't drop.